I got the news that we've had another execution. I mean, we're calling them the wrong things, aren't we? Um, Today, ICE agents shot completely innocent human being multiple times, murdered him, executed him. And hello, Robin. Yep, it has to stop. It. Yes, and please, you leave your comments here. It's just me today. I'll see if one of my buddies comes on here and they want to talk too. But the word is execution, and I want to talk a little bit about how we have to respond to this. Yeah, yeah, it's horrible. Executed. And this is what we're living in. And the thing that's allowing this stuff to happen, yeah, thank you, Pam. I wanted to just come on and talk to everybody. And let's just yeah, we need to get our country back. But we also right now we have to our response has to be reasonable, and we can't let them provoke us. This is a militarized domestic terrorist force. It's a military force. And our answer is not to oppose or meet them. Our way has to be peaceful. And that's the thing I always have to remind everybody. We have to be peaceful. I'm not okay. Nobody's okay. I mean, it's awful. Thank you for asking though, Jason. I don't mean to be sharp, but I mean it's like, yeah, nobody's okay right now. We're not okay. Um they're executing people, masked men, you know? And yes, please. I know the temptation is, and people are saying a lot of these things. We absolutely cannot respond to this by meeting them out. You're not going to meet them out in the street. If you're going to protest somewhere, protest our representatives, because our representatives just pass. I think 7 Democrats, and along with all the Republicans, just passed. Another 10 billion or so to this domestic terrorist group called ICE. Yeah, yeah, Alex. His last name is Pretty. I saw it. I mean, all these lives that are being lost right now, all these lives being lost by this criminal organization, this white supremacy regime. And, I mean, people, one of the things I really want you to do, what we have to do to fix this is we have to activate white people. We have to fight that denial. There's a lot of denial. And you have to download these videos of these executions, these ICE, extrajudicial executions. There's no reason for them. I mean, the guy was on the ground. There was no reason to do this. I mean, and you have to download these videos and you have to reach out to your family members, all of you here, and you have to make them make them say the words. This was an execution. We have a Gestapo in the United States that thinks it is above the law. It is made up of white supremacists. They are armed by the U.S. military. And yeah, I'm worried about the people in Minneapolis and any big city. But the other thing to remember is they're coming for you no matter where you are. Yeah, it is wrong. And that's what I want to talk about here. Somebody just mentioned the spin. Obviously, because this is a regime of liars. The person in the Oval Office, his 34 felony counts were related to election fraud. He was under investigation for election fraud in 2020 because white supremacists do not obey the rules. They think they're entitled to everything. They cheat. And we should have President Kamala Harris right now, and the guy who's in the Oval Office should be in a prison cell. That's what should be. But that's not what we have. Instead, what we have now, and everybody has to repeat these words, a domestic terrorist organization funded by the U.S. government is executing innocent people. They're wearing masks. They're marching around. They think they're above the law. And yeah, Jason, that's a good comment. I mean, they've been doing this a long time. They always, every single time, they murder innocent people. They turn around and they try to control the narrative, and then they try to smear the people that they've killed. And that's why it's so important to download. You know what? At this point, we have to anybody who is a Republican, you know, they are complicit in this, and the 7 Democrats who voted to fund this, they are complicit too, and those are the places we need to be protesting. We shouldn't be confronting ICE directly. Those of you, of course, some of you are out of states. And those of you, I mean, ICE is it's ridiculously funded, and there are thousands of them. But they're not in if they're not in your city yet, you have to resolve and know that they are coming to your city, and you need to go and make your anger known. And, peacefully, I'm gonna say it again, but making phone calls isn't enough. Boycotts is a good place to start. Cancel all your subscriptions, cancel them all. Um, it's not enough to just call up your representative and leave an angry message. Go show if they have an office, show up at that office. Maintain your cool. Please leave your guns at home. People who are armed, leave your guns at home. This whole Second Amendment bullshit is never ever was true. It's never been true. Uh, if you think you're not even gonna be able to defend your house. If you they'll just murder you. Do not bring a gun. Our weapon is not that. Our weapon is peaceful protest. There are more of us than them. This whole nation will collapse if we don't work. So we cannot be provoked into playing their game. Right now, that is the most important thing. There's that's probably the most important. Don't be provoked into playing their game. Don't say things. Don't write things about how, you're gonna go buy a gun and learn how don't say any of that. A gun isn't how we win this. It's not gonna be with guns. We're gonna win this through strikes, through refusing to work, through peaceful protests, for making sure our representatives know the truth. And by downloading these executions, I mean, you're not allowed to do what they're doing. This is against the Constitution. And I know that the veil has been pulled over a lot of our fellow citizens in this country. A lot of our fellow citizens are yet to see what's going on. And it's people, who they feel they're sheltered from this. And we have to convey to everybody that this is just the start and it's going to continue. And we're at this point now because we didn't stand up to these bullies when they tried to overthrow the government on January 6th. And they murdered police officers then too, and now they're just going to continue having their executions, these, and then they're going to continue to cover them up. And that's the reality where we're at. And the other thing I want you guys all to know, the people that they're recruiting for this, I happen to know what these people are like because I grew up in this very conservative rural area. I had a group of cousins who their minds are such they never came out and straight out said that they were white supremacists, but you know how deeply white supremacy runs in the cultural identity of the United States. And I had a group of cousins who they spent, every time there was daylight and they weren't working, they were out practicing with their weapons. They were out shooting things, they were out shooting targets. I mean, I know there's a lot of these liberals with PhDs who have spent their whole lives in blue cities, surrounded by other liberal ideas. You guys don't know what you're up against here. And I've seen it. And it's only by a miracle that I managed to get away from that type of life. But these are grievance-fueled people. And they spend all their time shooting guns. And, to the point where they're broke because they're spending all of their money on ammunition. But at the same time as that, these are people that have never had the discipline to join the military. And one other thing I have to remember right now. Portland, it was a military deployment. The military deployments are trained. They're held to a standard. ICE is this thing that we've allowed to develop because of our silence. They wrote these exceptions to the Constitution. They gave this absurd amount of power during the Patriot Act, in our fear. And so what we're paying for now is the consequence of our fear. The corruption of the American soul, we're having to pay for it. The cruelty that we've allowed to exist, which we have refused to call out. When I was talking to Arturo Dominguez the other day, he mentioned how we've always known, these white supremacists are out there. And we always thought, well, let's just ignore them. Meanwhile, the white supremacists are murdering. They've been murdering members of the black community for years. They've been murdering members of the LGBTQ plus community for years. And white people have just been indifferent to this because it didn't affect them, to our shame. Um, and it is a white, and I get people who start in with their BS about the percentage of the Hispanic community that voted for Republicans. It's like, look, the base is white. Just don't even start with that BS. The base is white. This is a white supremacy movement. And we've been just being passive. We've been passive. We've allowed them to encroach and encroach. They take away books from schools. They cut educational funding. And some of us have said that that's not right. But the whole rest of the country has been asleep and has allowed them to make these encroachments further and further and further. And now we're at the point where a secret police is executing innocent people in broad daylight on the street. And this regime is accusing the people that they murder of being terrorists with no evidence, smearing their characters. And we have grieving mothers and fathers who have to go into the hospital and identify the remains of their babies, you know? And on top of that, they have to hear the president and other people in this administration call their children terrorists. And I just want you all to know it's going to be you too. It's going to be you. And you have to activate. Hi, Mason. You have to activate now peacefully. And the first thing here, this is a war of information first and foremost. And I keep telling you, you can't listen to the folks like the Kinzingers who are passive, who is not willing to call this a domestic terrorist group, who's not willing to call these executions what they are. The Gestapo is just grabbing people and shooting them. Go watch. I don't know what you have to do to get your head right about this. Go watch some movies about Nazi Germany and how they just grab people, haul them up to the woods, put them on their knees, and shoot them in the back of the head. That's what we're at. That is what we are at. It's not coming. It's happening right now. I just need 210 of you. Thank you for being here. Hello, Paula. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Will, do you want to come on and talk with me? If you want to come on, Will, you can come on. I'm just sitting here. I just want to convey. I mean, the white community has to activate here, and somebody said, and it's just the most shameful part of all of this is the power that the white community has to make this stop. And it's by the apathy and the indifference to human suffering and the value of human life. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. Tell me when you're ready, Will. Thank you. I'm glad Will's here. Will and I talk all the time, and this is just a moment where we have to talk. But yes, be organized, but we're being peaceful again, people. Leave your guns at home. Do not be provoked. Because if they bring you in, if you arm them, if you try to meet them on their territory, they're going to kill you. They're going to kill you. And just you have to remove these ideas too, that there's any protection whatsoever in you being, a gun owner. There is none. There is none. That is just another lie that is told to give people this false sense of security to think that they have some sort of protection against this. You should be terrified. There is no protection here. If they come to your house and they break down the door, they're going to murder everybody in the house. That's what's going to happen. Because this is a Gestapo. They are execution squads. And every single one of these guys every person that they've killed, all the fishermen, the innocent fishermen just trying to survive, all the people they murdered in Venezuela, and all the people that died in COVID because of their inept handling of that. and all the, people that died on Epstein Island, and there's never accountability. And I just need everybody to take this moment. You're feel the reason a lot of people feel frustrated, you should feel frustrated, you should feel scared. And when you feel frustrated, take that moment of recognizing that what we've been told up until now has been lies. They tell us lies. The lies are to control us. And when they make you feel frustrated, it's because they want to provoke you. You cannot be provoked. Um, yeah, you cannot be provoked into violence. There's so much we can do. Um, Pressuring the representatives that are doing nothing. We got to shout down when Schumer and Jeffries and others act as if this is business as usual, act as if they can still work with the Republicans. I mean, they need to be made to resign. We need to change, and we need to get our elected officials, all the elected officials who voted to fund ICE, they need to resign right now too. They need to go. I mean, and we have to put that pressure on them. We have to make that happen. And they're soft. These representatives, again, the battle is not do not do anything against ICE. And I mean, if they're not in your town, don't even think about that. Don't come here. Put the pressure on these representatives because they can end this. Our representatives can end this. And a big part of it is, and I want you all to know you do have power. They're trying to push you to respond in a way where your power doesn't lie. That's the super important thing to remember here. Your power does not lie in violence. Your power lies in your refusal to spend and your refusal to work and your refusal to participate in the society that is fundamentally broken and which the government is allowing white supremacists to execute people. And a big part of it is all of the 248 people here right now, you have to recognize that's what's happening because they are going to pressure you into thinking that that's not the case. I mean, that we're going to be the next thing we're going to see is this propaganda tidal wave where they try to tell all this bullshit. And it's going to work with a lot of people, because a lot of people are just passive. All right, I'll add Will here. A lot of people are just passive. A lot of people, um, it's just easier for them because they're cowards. They're flat out cowards. So you have to talk to them. You have to make people see what's happening. Hi, Will. Thank you so much.
Hey man, what's up?
Thank you. I guess I was out of town. I didn't know what to do. I don't know. Fuck. I figured people wanted to talk, so I came on. Thank you for being here, my good friend. I appreciate you very much.
You're very welcome, man. I'm happy to be here too with you, during this difficult time. But, you and I, what makes it, I think, extra difficult, right, is we really know the foundation of this violence that we're facing right now, and we try and tell people, and it can be frustrating when, it's amazing to have all these people here, man, like
Yes,
259 people here.
that's power. That's power right there.
It is, but the one thing that I can't help but think, Walter, right? We've talked about this before. We cannot react to blood being spilled as the mechanism for us to create change. We cannot rely on the blood of our fellow Americans to be spilled
Yeah,
as the motivation for us to take action. Like we
it
just
should have been.
we can't.
Yeah. Well, it's where we're at now, but yes, I mean, and we have to examine that freaking mechanism that made everybody so apathetic. And yes, removing that because it's still there. I mean, there's still so many people that are not aware. And I mean, you've been saying it well just since the election. Like people are not, they don't appreciate how much danger we're in based on the fact that this just reprehensible criminal has been given the levers of power again. And you and I, Will, we've been trying everything to wake people up. And the job is going to continue until everybody's awakened or we're all dead is really, and more people are seeing that. But it's so important to get ahead of it now. And again, not be pushed into the response, like people thinking they have to violence isn't going to save us here. You know, that is their game. They want to push us to violence so they can murder us all.
Yeah.
First thing we have to do is activate our brains and recognize, accept the reality of this mess we're in. That they're executing innocent people. They're
Oh yeah.
executing.
And they have been, they're just doing it. They're preparing to do it at scale, and that's the reality right now of our government, which is incredible. Like, I mean, we need a different word other than unprecedented at this point. The way that I was thinking about it just before I came on, Walter, before I saw you, I was like, what's happening right now is people are starting to see the transparent battle between good and evil right now.
There you
That's
go.
literally what we're up against right now, is like pure evil. These people do not care about human life. These people do not have any morality.
Yeah.
They have no problem rewriting history right in front of our faces, telling us not to believe what we can see with our own eyes. As long as they can get away with it. In fact, I think that they kind of get off on exposing themselves to the public, and continuing to hold power.
Yeah.
So these people are not going to go away just by us reacting to them in any way, shape, or form. You know, they have to be fought, they have to be battled, and then we have to win. So I appreciate everyone being here. I just hope that you'll keep coming here. All right,
Yeah.
keep coming. Don't just come here because you're angry. Don't just come here because you're sad.
Yeah.
Come here because you want things to be different. And the people who are doing the work to try to make things different, you want to support them. That's why you come. All right. So yeah.
And put it out of your mind too that this is, I mean, we got to get to that point of the real rot that is at the core of the United States of America that is allowed to exist. And I mean, they've been killing, black men in traffic stops for as long as I can remember. And it's like if more people get activated because it's some white guy, well, we'll use that, but it's also an indictment of the morality of this country, and there's just so much though because our politicians, there's a lot of guys who have the power to do something today. Tomorrow that guy, I mean, the president could be removed tomorrow. And again, our response has to be peaceful, but it has to not just be us screaming and yelling. It's dangerous. They are Gestapo is just hauling people off and executing them, and we can't deny it. I mean, denial, I think, is one of the top things of talking about what's wrong right now, how we got here. People deny, deny, deny. And I mean, it's a science and the white supremacy mentality is to just deny reality, as Will has said over and over again. They don't even see reality. Every narrative just suits their purpose. And we also got to know we've got, the Department of Justice. They've seen these files. They've seen these Epstein files of these powerful men raping because I mean, it's been confirmed. There were those cameras, those pinhole cameras all over Epstein Island. He kept the tapes as blackmail. So there's people who are covering it up, having seen videos of these powerful men raping kids. And, it's like just, I guess too, I mean, I don't mean to lecture and be mean, and it takes me a long time to rip the veil away. There's just layers upon layers upon layers in our minds that they've brainwashed us, and it's a lifelong process of removing that brainwashing. But people need to be activated. But again, don't let them trick you into responding, in a trap where they can just kill you. We need everybody to be here.
Yeah, man, y'all, we gotta stay safe. All right. You're no good to anyone if you're gone. All right. So we gotta realize that these people are willing to use lethal force, like Walter said, on anyone.
Executing. Yep.
Exactly. They're willing to execute you. They're willing to call you a terrorist, right? And put you in a category, rewrite your past, present, and future, right? These people do not care. So, yeah, that's the situation that we're in. It is frustrating to see that some people are just waking up to that reality, but like,
They're welcome though.
yeah,
Welcome.
of
Thank
course.
you.
Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome who's awake, but you also have to be aware, because waking up is like step one. When you wake up, your breath stinks. You got to brush your teeth a little bit. Like you got to stretch. You're
Yeah.
a little tight. and it's just make sure that you throw yourself into people who have already been awake, who have already been working on this, right? Because those are going to be the people who you're going to want to support to try to organize, to try to create community, to try to create systems outside of these structures we become reliant on in order
Yeah.
to live our lives. That's literally what it's going to take. And this is not going to be over soon or easily, as I've been saying, and even though I'm called hopeless when I say that, I want people to understand, listen, I'm just telling you about our reality. This is just the reality of what we're about to face here. Okay. It doesn't mean that all is lost. It doesn't mean that things are hopeless. Okay.
Yeah.
It just means that if we actually are truly serious about fighting back and winning, then we have to make radical changes to the way that we are living our lives.
Yeah.
That is the most transparent truth that I can put out there for y'all to hear. For me, what am I doing? I'm leaving the freaking country. Like I mean, I'm trying anyway. Who knows if I can even get out of here in time before no one's allowed to leave or come in. So
Yeah.
I don't even know. But yeah, I plan to come back and forth. And I'm sure at some point I'm going to be put on a list. Why? Because I'm going to try to hit this system where it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say though to everybody, it's really super important. It's something I've been saying, and I do understand that it, it takes me a long time to learn these things too. But it's those guys, those ones that try to normalize things, those status quo defenders. I get really upset. I saw a couple of Adam Kinzinger's posts today, but he's not calling it an execution that I've seen. He hasn't said that they are domestic terrorists that I've seen, and that's the language we need. And if anybody is subscribing to him, you can unsubscribe. You leave a note. I'm no longer a paying supporter until you say that this is an execution and those are domestic terrorists. Tell them what you want. Your money talks. But also, too, everybody here, when you hear people using the wrong words to describe what's going on, when they call it a murder, it's an execution. They're the Gestapo. They're going door to door. They're demanding now. ICE is saying that they don't need a warrant anymore, is what they're saying. They can just bash down any door. And what's scary for me about that is, then they just say, oh, well, we were at the wrong house. So they are a government sponsored death squad. They're in a government sponsored assassination squad at this point. They can go to any house, knock down the door. That's the right thing. It's still illegal. And by the time it gets to court, you're already dead. So that doesn't fucking help you.
Well,
And this
now,
idea,
now it doesn't even get to court, right?
right?
Because the people who would bring it to court are not going to do so. They've all resigned. Anyone who would bring it to court. So yeah, we're in very difficult territory here, where all the accountability measures that we were all told, right, were supposed to keep things in check. Our checks and balances, our system of checks and balances, is fully broken at this point. I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have to find another way of getting out of this mess,
yeah,
and the only way we're gonna do that is if enough of us organize and come together. But and
yeah,
I'm warning everyone right now, we will not be able to build a big enough coalition together without dealing with white supremacy.
yeah,
It will never happen. So if people out there who are listening, if you haven't taken some intentional, purposeful time to investigate the issue of racism and white supremacy as an individual, that is exactly where you need to start.
mhm,
That is exactly where you need to start.
yeah. And it's like somebody mentioned he called it a murder. That's not enough. It's not enough. If people are saying it's a murder, you have to call it an execution. A Gestapo executed an innocent person. And we have to tell. I always say it's like don't even try to pressure the Republicans. Pressure the Democrats. So they have platforms. They should be talking to us. And this is one of the major issues in this country. You got Pete Buttigieg, you got all these guys, and then you look, if they were president right now, I'd be happy. But right now, they're not activated. And they're so concerned about consolidating their fucking power They won't talk to a person like me. They'd rather go spend the money it costs to go on Fox News and talk there. And they would never even sponsor like my little newsletter where we're activating the people. And that's the kind of bullshit that we have to change. And we have to put pressure on our Democrats so they stop, censoring us. And I mean, I would love to see Will sit down and have a debate with Pete Buttigieg, about the direction of where our country should go. Why wouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't the Democrats be out there talking to all these new creators in new media who are consolidating these huge followings? They're deliberately suppressing us. So you guys have to stop funding that kind of centrist bullshit. The centrist bullshit is just the passive surrender. You're right. It's not, and they don't care, but also they want their power and they don't really want to fight fascism. They want to use it opportunistically. They aren't shedding tears at the death of every innocent man, woman, and child who is executed by this Gestapo. They didn't do a goddamn thing. We gave them the House. We gave them the presidency. They had all the power in the world in 2020 to stop this. They didn't do a goddamn fucking thing because they're a bunch of fucking cowards. They all need to go. And that's another thing too. And I know we got a lot of things to work on. And Will is right. Yes, we have to understand how white supremacy is this toxic mind virus that will either kill this country or will obliterate it. That's there. But we also got to think of like the primaries. They're a month away. Vote out all the fucking guys that have sat in there and done nothing. We gave them all the power to prevent this. They didn't. And then they sit there and try to act like this is still normal, the way they talk. You got to start tone policing those people. Tone police the people around you. Make them watch the videos. Make them watch it. And make them say the words that it's an execution, it's a Gestapo, it's a domestic terror force. Because why are 7 Democrats voting to fund this shit? That's what we got to stop.
Speak up, guys. Exactly right. Talk to people in your social circle. Make sure they understand what's going on. Make sure they understand the situation. Okay. I've been doing it. Walter's done it, and y'all got to do it within your social circles as well. Everybody needs to be aware of what's happening and then make a decision. Same in white supremacy, same in fascism and authoritarianism, same in, all of it, all the oppressive forces that we're dealing with. Everybody's got to decide, are you for or against? What are you going to do? Because there's no neutral. Okay. We've got to decide.
Yes.
I also just I just want to say just the loss of life that we've already experienced. All of these people who have been brutalized, just guys, I've been watching the state murder people for many years, for a really long time. And it never gets easier. It never gets easier to see what happens, to see their past rewritten, to see their lives destroyed after their, posthumous.
Yeah.
That
Posthumously. Yep.
you. Yeah, it's disgusting, you
Yeah.
know? It's pure evil. And, I'm glad that it makes people angry. I'm glad that it makes people angry because it shows me that there are still people who value human life out there. What we
Yeah.
need to do now is we need to get together. People who are willing to understand how valuable life is and how people walking on the street just exercising their First Amendment rights, getting blown away for nothing,
Yeah.
and having their life rewritten, that's not a world, not a country that we can
Yeah.
accept, We can't accept a country that
Not
sells
sustainable.
bulletproof backpacks for your kids. We can't accept a country that will write laws to protect white people's feelings to keep them in ignorance so they can continue to oppress them.
Yeah.
You know, we can't
Yeah.
accept this place the way that
Well,
it is. Okay. The way that it is has not been working, has not been working. It is not working now. And if we
yeah.
want to work in the future, we've got to work towards radical transformation. It's the only way. Okay. So once you get your mind around that, okay, once you get your mind around that, then we can start thinking about what it is we're actually going to do. But most people are still at the point where they're trying to accept our reality right now.
Yeah.
And I get right? It's hard, man.
Yeah. And well said, Will. And it'll start happening fast if you just have the courage to talk to the people in your sphere and just say these things. And hey, did you see that? Did you see that video of that guy getting executed Let's watch it together. Do that. Do that with people and find out. I mean, a lot of the times we're quiet because we don't want to know what we're around. We're like, let's just not ask that guy. Find out if that guy's on your side or not. You're better off knowing at this point. And I really want all the people here, all these wonderful people, write representatives. If you're part of a democratic organization, tell them to interview me. Tell them to come on my Substack and talk to me so that we can continue to compile our resources. But we need this diversity of opinion. And the Democrats have been losing because even though they claim to be the big tent party, they kick people like me and they kick people like Will out. They deliberately oppress our viewpoint because what they're doing is nonsensical. And anybody with any kind of rational thought can look at the Democratic Party and see that they're not doing good enough. They need to be more open to criticism rather than attacking us when we tell them what they're doing is batshit crazy. They need to listen because a few of us are people like me who grew up in red counties, who 2 out of every 3 people I talk to every day are part of MAGA. I know how they think better than Ivy League people, who have lived in blue cities all their lives. I know what they're doing. And a lot of what's going on right now, there's never been that response. The fucking white supremacists sit in their little festering freaking sweat lodges and they come up with plans to indoctrinate your kids. They do that constantly. That's how they wrote Project 2025. They got whole think tanks funded by money that's probably money that was stolen from these kids that they've abducted and raped. It's probably money that they've taken from the military budget that can never pass an audit. They managed to fund themselves. They spend the whole time coming up with these plans. And in every aspect imaginable, they attack your children's right to learn, have a good education, to learn about basic decency. And we don't have any response to that. Our response is let's ignore it.
And
that's what has to change.
Yeah, and not just basic decency, y'all. You're exactly right about that, Walter. But not just that. They don't want to just prevent your kids from learning that. They want to control everything that your kids are thinking. Everything.
Yes.
Everything. This is real. This is real stuff. This is not conspiracy theory stuff. Like we're in it, and yeah, we need as many people to be aware of that reality as possible at this point.
Yeah.
If any chance of making sure that this doesn't get drawn out even longer. We've delayed dealing with our problems as a country for generations, y'all. All right.
Yes.
That's what America history shows.
Yeah.
The people have come, they've tried to get us to move forward, to try to heal our past and move forward. And those people have been executed, right?
Yeah.
Those people have been shut down, oppressed, and now need to decide as a collective, as a country, as a group of people who value humanity, who value human life, right? And who value what this country's supposed to stand for, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Need to get together and we need to financially, emotionally, socially support each other and
Yes.
create community to fight back against this tyranny. That's what we have now. And that take many forms, y'all. We've got so many intelligent, thoughtful, creative, loving people in our community. And all we need to do is accept reality, get together, organize, and execute, guys. We can do it.
Yes. And I want to say too, I mean, this is excellent. All these people here, that gives me some hope. So thank you, because I was really upset when I came on here. And I mean, this is a country that has, I mean, we got Obama elected. So that shows to me that at least there was an impulse among the voting class I mean, he could have used his power in more ways and been more aggressive. And so the mechanism is that thing that is stopping us, that mechanism that stops decent people when they get into positions of power from actually helping. And we saw it again with Biden. There was no reason for him not to go through and push through a lot of other things. But then we get people like Manchin who sink his agenda. So that's where our pressure has to be. We have to demand this other level. We have to make that think tank that counters Project 2025. So we have a plan for the future and we have an objective, because we're all so conditioned. And this, I mean, it applies to me. I don't mean to sit here and be like I'm lecturing everybody. Will and I, and Will say it applies to him too. We've been spending our last year trying to peel away those layers. Why do I think this bullshit? This thing I assume is the truth. Why do I have it in my head that it's wrong for me to even ask or demand for universal health care? That's not natural. That's not a natural thing. Why do people in America think they have to kick their kids out of the house when they turn 18? That's fucking insane. Your kids aren't ready to leave your house at that time. We don't have to think like that. And so I wanted everybody to pressure, though. I mean, it doesn't help us when a guy like Gavin Newsom instantly gets pushback from a podcast host. Like he gets on with these right wing fucking podcast hosts, and then he says, "Oh, ICE is a terrorist organization," and then they push back at him, and he's like, "Oh wait, we need all of our Democratic representatives to say ICE is the Gestapo. They're acting lawlessly. They're violating the Constitution. They're executing people. It's made up of white supremacists. We know this. My friends on the ground in Minneapolis, which is an hour and a half from where I'm sitting, they've seen these guys with the swastikas and the SS tattoos. They're untrained. They show up. They're recruiting from all these groups. These white supremacy groups are alive and well, and we've been trained to ignore them. We have to fight against them. And they're coming after you, and these are grievance-minded people who have nothing in their lives. So, like as Will said, they don't care about human life. Imagine, but just look at where we're at too in this culture, where there's a recording of that officer, the one who killed Renee Nicole Good, who called her a fucking bitch. It's like I've seen people out hunting deer, and they've shot a deer, and they've, in reverence for or for any form of life, they feel bad. And this is a person who killed another human being, executed. I have to catch myself. He executed her in cold blood, and then he called her that in celebration of that death. Has anybody even opined on that in the media that you've seen? How psycho you have to be to celebrate the murder of another human being, and then they defend that person.
And don't forget,
that's what we have to fix.
Don't forget that she wasn't dead right away.
Yeah,
she still had a pulse for 8 minutes, and they prevented people from giving her medical care. Don't forget that part either. Okay, these are people who have a callous disregard for human life. Exactly right. That's who they are. So we're in a fight against pure evil, guys. That's how it is. And it's weird. I have mixed feelings because it's good to have people like Walter in the fight with me. It really is. It's good to have someone to talk about this with, that isn't the way that I've been existing for most of the time that I've been active, and so I appreciate you, Walter, so much for making space for this kind of dialogue, and I appreciate everybody here for your comments, and for whatnot. Like what we need, guys, is consistency, and the political will and the heart to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have the option to, look at like Gavin Newsom's platforming people like Steve fucking Bannon. And they won't platform me, but they'll platform Steve Bannon. And you guys all can make calls. You can all pressure people. Some of you know other Democratic groups. We got to change the status quo, the way things have been going. Adam Kinzinger should be talking to all of us too. We should all have this legitimate feedback and exchange of information. They're still operating on this kingmaker mentality. That's dead. The kingmaker mentality is dead. We have to all rise together. We have to combine together. We have to protect each other because, all this shit that you've been taught is not going to save you. Constitution's not going to save you. Second Amendment sure as fuck isn't going to save you. The only thing that's going to save you is getting organized, activating the minds of all the people around you. And Will and I've been kind of learning the language for this, fortunately, for the last year. So we're equipped to do this. And now that this event, this horrible, horrible execution has happened, 428 people now are willing to listen. So thank you. And that's good. And if all 428 of you go out and talk more, you have to talk more. And if you have contacts with Democrats or whatever who will come on and talk to me, do that. Because the power structure is just not aware because they're not boots on the ground. We got all these rich assholes who have never wanted for anything in their life. And they're still being told by their surrounding groups, how they can just wait till the midterms. How many people will be dead between now and the midterms? How many people will be executed by the Gestapo, the American Gestapo, the white supremacy groups? They're out of their mind and they have access. I've heard, we've been hearing they've been gassing kids, hitting kids with these toxin, these nerve agents and shit. It's like, what? They have access to all the weapons of our military. They can wipe out whole cities if they want to. And so we can't sit here passively and allow. I mean, when Gavin Newsom starts to apologize for criticizing ICE, he's got to hear about that from you guys. And if any one of these guys, they're talking about working with Republicans, you guys got to tell them they can't do that. We got to show up and again, it's always peaceful. We're talking to our representatives who have to be doing something, our governors. If you've got friends and family in law enforcement, make sure that they will defend the community, because tell them if ICE comes to your school, and it's like they're if they're going, I've been saying this. It's like, are you going to protect, are you worried that if they come for my kids, they might hurt yours on the way to getting my kids? Because the reality is the horrors of what's going on here. It's hard to convey because people just don't have that respect for human life in the United States. We have to make them have that respect for human life. We have to make them see the horrors of these executions that are happening. And if we do that, we'll have a chance. And if we fall into the trap of responding with violence, we'll lose.
That's right. Yeah, guys. I mean, I don't really have much to add to that, Walter. You're exactly right. I mean, we just had Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday recently, and Dr. King obviously had a nonviolent pathway to help us get to freedom and equality, racial equality, and out of militarism and away from abject poverty and all the rest. And part of that was to create the kind of coalition that we have to create now. Why? Because he was prophetic. He knew exactly what was coming. He predicted the scenario that we find ourselves in right now. And he knew that we were going to have to create a collective force that at that time didn't exist, still doesn't exist now, but we got to create it. All right, guys, we got to create a community, a large one, first within our local communities and then larger. Uh,
Mhm.
going to take time. Creating community is work, you know, and I just want to explain to people that the reason I always focus on white supremacy, of course, I'm a racialized black man, right? But the reason I focus on it is because I know for sure that if we don't deal with it, that we cannot build a coalition big enough to actually fight back. And
Yeah.
it's very important that we get on that wavelength together as soon as possible. I'm a revolutionary, y'all. Okay. I don't really care how we get it done. I just want to get it done. All right. And I've been working on this for a long time. And one piece of advice I want to give all y'all, no matter what part of the fight you're in, no matter what area of society you find yourself in, or what your job is, or whatever else, right? One thing that everyone can do is find out who are your local activists. Every community has local activists. There are people always who have been fighting back against ableism, against racism, against transphobia, against homophobia, against, all of it, against patriarchy. You're going to find people who have already been fighting. Okay. So your job is to go seek those people out, find out how you can support them, either with your money, with your time, with your support in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's going to take. And that's what Walter's talking about when he's saying, listen, we're not going to get the same kind of billions of support, millions and billions of dollars of support the right wing think tanks give to random talking heads to spout nonsense and evil, the Scott Jennings of
Yeah.
the, and the like. So we need support from people on our side. And that's something we've been lacking for a long time is the people who are actually doing the good works that we need in order to keep democracy going. They're not supported. They're not support.
Yes.
And so I don't know. I think people got a little comfortable, a little comfortable. And we need to realize that listen, our days of comfort have come to an end. We got people being executed in the streets by the federal government,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
they're lying about it. And they're not going to hold anyone accountable for these shootings unless we make them, you
They're
know.
not. I saw Ellie Leonard's here. Ellie, if you want to come on, just leave a message. I can add you too. And I want to address neurodivergent. Absolutely, I fully defend the rights of disabled people, and that's another aspect of white supremacy. White supremacists will go and they just they designate large parts of the population for execution, and you know, but we have what all I was saying is like these this white supremacy ideology, it corrupts people to their soul, and it's something that we have to recognize. Thank you. I'm glad I got that worked out. Neurodivergent hodgepodge. I didn't. Sometimes yes, the language can be a little bit complex, but yeah, just I want
And
everybody. Okay, she's cooking.
wait, Walter, I'm sorry, one thing about that, okay? I just wanna say thank you so much, Walter, for saying that, but guys, listen, you see what happened there, right? It was called dialogue, it was called communication, okay? And sometimes it's smooth and sometimes it's not smooth, and that's perfectly okay, you know? I have a guest coming up on my live stream next week who said he was kind of fearful of having conversations about race because he thought that he might say the wrong thing, you know, and so he just didn't have them, right? But now he found the courage, right, to come on and publicly have that conversation with me on live stream, right? That's the kind of courage we need from everyone right now, okay? And don't be afraid of making a mistake. You're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna make
Yeah.
okay. This is called part of the human condition is making mistakes.
Yes.
That's perfectly fine. All right.
That's very nice of you, I try to do that, and it's often the case that I'll make mistakes on these talks, and I'll apologize to them. I think or for them. I think that's important to do because we're flawed people, and that's the opposite of the white supremacy mindset. And it's people. This is why we're in this mess. We got a president who never admits a mistake, and that's how they get this contorted worldview. Because you end up, they make mistake after mistake after mistake, and the people that are beneath his power have to pretend it didn't have those things. So it's like they're not seeing reality. That is how the white supremacy and anybody who's been in a narcissistic relationship knows what that is like. Where you're not, I mean, when we used to go on a drive with my dad, if he went the wrong way, we couldn't tell him because we weren't allowed to point out that he made a mistake. So we just had to sit and wait until he figured out for himself and went the wrong way. And that's what we have to dismantle. That structure is everywhere. And that structure comes into effect. If I criticize Adam Kinzinger, and people are attacking me. Walter, you're burning bridges. You're breaking up somebody with it. It's like, look, we have to change our mindset to have corrections when people are doing things wrong. And again, I just really want everybody that pressure. I've had a couple progressives come and, quite a few progressive candidates will come and talk to me. But other than that, it's shut down because the Democratic Party doesn't want to listen to other ideas and other viewpoints. They want to be conservative light. They want to do everything the Republicans do. All they ever do is appeal to the right. They never even try to appeal to the left. And that's just going to continue to push us. It's what's happened. That's how we're ending up in fascism. And so when you see your representatives failing to call things an execution, or when they're failing to call ICE domestic terrorists, you have to be loud. You can't let them get away with it. And there will be all this pressure for us to be silent. They'll tell us to be silent because they'll claim that we're the one breaking the coalition by making these demands. And that's the lie. And that's the thing that everybody has to know. We have to change our brains. We have to demand these things. We have to demand better. Call your representatives, your local organizations, get them on Substack, bring them on here so we have more and more people and we're talking. But
Yeah.
yes, we have to pressure our Democratic politicians who are not doing enough, and they have plenty of power to significantly halt what's happening. And if we can start putting that pressure, having it expand some of the left-leaning Republicans, we only need like 4 or 5 of them, and we can change this and fix some things and stop letting them execute people.
Yeah. I mean, and what once you see it all, see the whole scenario politically, like you're drawing out for us there, Walter. You can't unsee it, and it really makes you see that you either got to put pressure on the Democratic Party and force them to do what you want, or you need to find a new party. You know where I stand on that. I'm with either
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
If we can wrangle the Democratic Party, fine, but like no one's been able to do that. So like you know, I don't see someone able to do that. But if it works, if it would work.
You
So
know, yeah, once I think If you activate white, I mean, the hard part here, and I was talking about with Arturo the other day, is like just the apathy of white people. That's really the issue. And I know you know it better than I do. I'll say that. But how do we get through there? And even the other day we were talking, it's like you have to consolidate in your mind because there's so many people that if you would talk, it's like a grandma that makes cookies for kids. Then she turns around and votes for fucking white supremacists.
Well, let me try to answer you. Let me try to answer you, like, in terms of that question about what do we do about apathetic white people? Listen, we don't do anything, man. The apathetic white people need to do something for themselves, okay? And what they need to do is go on a self-reflection journey about their values. What are your values? They need to go on that journey, figure out what they are, and then act on those values. Because white supremacy gives people a get out of jail free card, if you will, in terms of their values. You can say that you have certain values, but you don't necessarily have to live those values, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it allows people to do. Well, those days are gone. Now, what those people need to do is they need to self reflect, think about what your values are, think about maybe where you fell short of those values in your life,
Yeah.
and think about how you want to move forward with those values that you solidify for your future. That's the work that I'm doing, when I help decondition people from white supremacy, because ultimately you can't if you're a good person, then you can't hold on to white supremacist ideology once you're confronted with
Yeah.
what values actually are. Okay. And so everyone needs to be given that choice. And I understand that a lot of those apathetic people, they've never been confronted with having to do that choice, or maybe they were confronted with it one time, shut it down, and then moved on with their lives and probably never thought about it for the rest of their lives, and that's also something that could easily happen. So, and
Yeah.
and so this isn't about blame or shame, but it's about whether people want to win or not.
Yeah.
Y'all, if we want to keep this country, if we want to save this place, then this is work that's past time to be done. And yeah, you're the one to do it.
Yeah. I and adding on to that, I wrote an article not too long ago, and something we have to recognize is this white supremacy indoctrination mechanism. It's designed to make people disregard the evidence of their own eyes and their ears. They disregard their own senses. So maybe that's the starting point because it's at the point now even if you show the video of the Gestapo executing somebody, so many of these people on the right will look at that and they will find an excuse to justify it. So we have to do that additional work of showing people how to actually, use a scientific process of observation, trust their own beliefs rather than that authority power that they've been indoctrinated to think. And this is the real thing that bothers me about the Democrats because every single day the Republicans are out there rote conditioning the general public to just believe their bullshit. They take away your ability. They are science deniers. They don't believe in vaccines. They don't believe in climate change. They don't believe in experts of any kind. I saw something the other day over the last 10 years, I think literacy rates had dropped like 10% in the United States. And so we're very much in this place where a big percentage of the population of the United States isn't capable of looking at a video of somebody being executed and recognizing that's what they see. And I've talked about this with Ellie Leonard too, where even if we get them to do the dump of all these videos of powerful men raping children, a lot of it's tens of millions of people will look at those videos and find an excuse to justify it. So that's where our work has to be, in addition to providing the evidence and making people see it and having these conversations and giving the people positions to self-reflect. I think there's multiple ways it could work for multiple people, and but it's just so complex. And again, the right spends every second of every day indoctrinating the public not to believe evidence, not to believe things they see. Just listen to our leader. And then the Democrats just passively sit back and assume, well, the public will observe how useless the Republicans are and vote for us. So it's as if they don't even recognize and combat that the Republicans are eroding the general population's ability to even perceive reality. That's what we're up against. And that's what Will and I have been doing in our talks to restore with people the process, your own autonomy, which you must all reclaim. And all the wonderful people that are here, I'm sure you're already making steps on that journey. But we have to go farther still. We have to go farther still and see the ways which we just passively accept a narrative that we are pressured to believe, which isn't true. And the left does it a huge amount. A
Oh, yeah.
huge amount people do that. That applies when I say, hey, Kinzinger, why aren't you in Minneapolis? And people from the left will come at me and say that I'm part of the problem there. It's a completely legitimate critical observation that I'm making of the guy. And so everybody has to get to that point. And the more we get a population of people that embrace observable reality and teach others how to embrace observable reality, then we start making progress. Maybe it's not, maybe that's even just what we do. We work on that, and they'll come to then the videos themselves and recognize it was an execution. Because if we have to convince people these shootings, you're in a bad spot with somebody. If you watch that same video and you have to convince them that that was an execution, that should give us some insight into what we're really up against. So this
Yeah.
is why.
If you
This
want
Go ahead
if
with
you
it.
want some insight into what we're up against, look at Israel, man. Look at Israel. I mean, they are publicly celebrating rapists, um, in their country. I had a woman on my show who, you know, it took her spending 2 hours with a 16-year-old kid to realize he was a human being, and she was
Yeah,
telling me the story of from her life experience. So, like, yeah, like, this is where they want us to head. They want particularly white men, mostly, and women too, but, like, they want white people to, look at everybody else as not a human being and
yeah,
to allow them to, execute us, and execute
yes,
and they're already executing immigrants, they're executing they're trafficking children, they're just separating people, they disappear them, not keeping any records. Like, this is going on before our very eyes, guys. Like, this place has become, something from, like, a horror tale, and it didn't happen overnight, it's been happening in front of our faces. We all need to reflect on what that means, and whether we are willing to just sit back as business as usual or whether we need to change radically in order to fight back. I think for me, the answer is very clear. Okay. I'm somebody who values truth. I value the truth. These people, they work with lies. Okay. I'm someone who values human life. These people, they work with death.
yeah,
You I'm someone who values community. These people, they want us divided.
yeah,
So, for me, the answer is easy. I don't accept the country that they're claiming is America. Okay, that's not the America that I want to live in. I'm an American citizen. We're all, many of us
yeah.
here are American citizens, and we got to fight for the country that we were promised would come into being. It's not going to happen on its own. We got to fight.
We got to fight for our right to life at this point, liberty and happiness. Those are distant seconds and thirds. I mean, life is what's on the line. They're executing us. And somebody mentioned, like, yeah, the Republican Party establishes these biases through rote conditioning constantly. There Right now, if I was to start up my car, if I was to scan the radio, there would be like 2 rock stations and like 15 hardcore right-wing indoctrination stations. I don't know where the funding for that comes from, but that's out there. I always tell people the right teaches people to disregard their senses and only look for evidence of the white supremacy narrative. And this is something I saw growing up where, I saw kids that were just you were always afraid that every day of my life growing up as a kid, I was afraid. Because if you got put into that other category, they would fucking kill you. And you'd see kids that were already like outside the fringes. These were the ones that they were allowed to beat on. A kid would get a new outfit, they'd throw him in the mud. I mean, all these things that they do. And then that kid would go home and get chewed out, and it's just that process of dehumanizing. And on this large scale, they want us against the wall. They want us economically just struggling. So we don't even have time to think about these things. They want us to not have healthcare. Think of how many people that refuse to even consider the possibility of universal healthcare. That's how sick America is. That we don't even think that it's possible. That's how deep that indoctrination runs. It makes no sense if you run the numbers. Think of all the people you know in the United States who say, "Oh, math, that's too hard. Math is hard. Ha ha ha. I don't do math." It's like, well, what the fuck? How do you check your pay stubs to make sure you're not getting robbed then? You know? Like this idea that it's normal to like not be able to do math? That's the United States of America. All these things are the process of white supremacy indoctrination. People that are out there, these pro life jerks, banning reproductive health care is a strategy of white supremacy. We have to make people know that because it always displaces, they always have these false justifications. The silver lining is these people are deceived because so many of them they're being told that what they're doing is the right thing. The farmers I grew up with, they always insisted, this is for something good down the line, and that we have to. They believe this. We have to endure something hard now for something better down the line. And once you just make them see that they're torturing their children for no gain, there's no benefit in this torture. There's no benefit in executing people or allowing our government to execute people. Nobody's safe right now with ICE
Yeah.
claiming they could just knock down doors and murder people. And again, that's a white supremacy lie, the Second Amendment. That's not going to save you. We have the power. They'll kill you. If you try to defend yourself with the Second Amendment or castle doctrine, any of that bullshit, you're going to die. That's what's going to happen. Our activism has to be to demand our representatives start calling these executions executions, start telling them they have to talk to people like me and Will. We have to be part of this process. They have to be willing to interact with us and listen to our ideas. Because I've been in the conservative areas. I know the messages that we'll get through to these people so that they win. The establishment Democrats, all they ever do is lose. The ones that have experience, they have experience with losing. And then when they get power, they don't do a damn thing with it. They just sit there using their advantages to rig the stock markets for their own wealth. All that has to change. We do have the power to change it. And it encourages me that all these people have come here today to listen to this. That tells me you're all feeling the same. Now it's a matter of reaching out to all the other people in your community that don't know that Substack exists. Bring them on here. We have to grow this. We have to get to 100,000 people, millions of people talking. We have to make sure everybody is registered to vote in the primaries. Vote out all those assholes. Don't listen to the bullshit like the fear tactics. Oh, this is the safer choice. Bullshit. If you elect some guy who's a right-wing Democrat who then turns around and screws us when an important vote happens, you've gained nothing. So we have to push through, get progressive leadership. This is the only way. So have courage. Have courage, because so much of what we think is fear-based thinking, and courage is peace. That's the other thing. This is a flower power movement. We're going to be peaceful. We're going to demand action from the people that actually have power and who can legally respond. But we're not going to carry out guns anywhere. That's not our way. I'll let you talk, Will.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love your passion, Walter. Yes, I think, there's this whole discussion about violence versus peace, and I'm like, I don't understand what the discussion is, you know? There
Yeah, no,
there's no discussion there. Violence is the weapon of these imperialists, okay, these white male supremacists. Like, that's their weapon, you know? They've got all the guns, they've got all the bombs, they've got all the tanks. Y Just from a practical standpoint, it doesn't make any kind of sense to suggest that you're going to do some kind of violent,
no, no.
revolution. That's
Flower
not.
power. Yeah.
And not only that, guys, but in the world that we're going to create, the hope is that we won't need to do something like that anymore. Okay. Like, use your imaginations, get creative, understand that there are people out here who have been fighting this and have just been waiting for people like you to wake up. Okay. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't need to know the answer to every question. What you need to do, if you're awake now, if you're sick of this violence, if you're sick of this toxic white supremacist environment, and you want something different, you want a better country, and you're ready for that, and you're ready to take action, the first thing you need to do is take a step back, not forward. All right. Find someone who you can stand behind, who you can support. If you learn something from this live stream that you share with Walter and I,
Oh,
who have
yes.
tried to put ourselves out as leaders in this space, share it with people in your social circle. Okay. Bring them in to the conversation. My guest next week on my show, who's going to talk about his evolution of race consciousness, Patrick, who's one of my paid subscribers, he told me as we were leading up and thinking about getting him on, he said, I don't have a big audience. I don't have a big following or anything. That means absolutely nothing to me. Okay. I'm not here to create a big following for getting clout or so I can get a certain number of subscribers or a certain amount of money or anything like that. I'm willing to talk to anyone with an open heart and an open mind who will be willing to investigate their own values, consciously choose them, and where they align with my anti fascist, anti racist views to find collaborators and people I can be in community with
Yes.
in these times. And that's what I think everybody should be trying to do in some way, shape, or form. You don't need to start a podcast. You don't need to even go to a protest. You don't need to do anything like that. You just need to spend your time, money, effort, and energy
Yeah.
on trying to make change in any way that you can think of doing so. Everyone has their own skills. Everyone has their own little, unique niche, that you've built. Think about where the intersection of white supremacy and that niche is. Think about where you can make an influence and an impact. Okay. And take action. Do something. All right. Love you guys.
Absolutely.
I got to head out. Walter, I love you so much, brother.
Thank you
Uh,
so much, Will. It's so great that you were here. I really appreciate it. That was just what I needed. Love you. Keep doing the good work you're doing.
You too, man. Y'all get a paid subscription to my man Walter. Please consider if you have the money, pay for Walter's subscription. He's done so much amazing work in organizing and bringing us together and elevating voices who need to be heard in this day and age, man. He's done incredible work. And the man needs us. He needs your subscriptions, okay? If you can't do it, tell someone who can do it. Talk to him about it. All right. I love y'all. Be well. All right. Peace and love to all y'all and
Yep.
stay safe.
I'm gonna stick around. Yep. Okay. See you, Will. See you this week. All right. He's able to go. I'm gonna stick around though. Yeah. Oh, hope I'm still there. Okay, I'm still here. And yeah, and going on with what Will said, I mean, I don't have all the answers. I don't. And I think we need to start looking to leaders who are willing to say they don't have all the answers. They're talking to other smart people. I mean, the BS that we have now, we have these assholes that just because they're authoritarian rulers, they never want to be questioned. And so they're never even capable of listening to people that know better than they do. And that's one of the attitudes that we have to change. Um, and we can't be passive here. We can't allow the lies to continue because they start stacking lies on top of each other. And that's how we got here. And this is an ongoing process too. All you wonderful people that are here. Will and I talk about this stuff regularly. We're peeling back the layers, trying to figure out what the best course of action is to go forward. Yeah, neurodivergent. Nobody has the answers. But it's interesting the extent to which the American public is indoctrinated or groomed or conditioned to they only listen to certain voices because they think, well, they flock to Kinzinger. For some reason, everybody flocked to Michael Cohen. Why don't we? And there's this narrative of, oh, these are good people now because they used to be on the bad side and then they turned. Where is that same impulse to flock to the people that have always been on the good side? Why do we do that? Why are we so desperate to be reverential towards these people that have treated us like shit? Instead, why don't we change direction and support the good people? I mean, I would, if I had to choose, let's make Ellie Leonard president. I would love that. She's this kind, wonderful person. We'll elevate her. What is wrong with the United States of America? We had the option to vote for Kamala Harris, this decent person. You can tell by the way she hangs out with her husband that they have a legitimate, loving, caring relationship. And so many hearts in the United States of America, tens of millions of hearts in the United States of America, you know, they would prefer to vote for a bully, a cruel person who only insults people, who has no accomplishments to his name. And my heart goes out to all the kids who live in households like that, with men and women who would vote for that repugnant man, thinking that that's something to admire or that is a behavior to model. And And we all knew this was gonna happen, you know? And then we have all these feckless Democrats who refuse to so much as do a hand recount, even though you're up against a guy who cheated. His 34 counts are election fraud. He cheated in 2016, and he was under, investigation. I think it was actually in criminal indictment for cheating in 2020, and then facing prison. The Democrats acted as if he wasn't gonna cheat. Like, that level of just absurd decorum that, it's just that's what has to end. That's what got us here. And again, the voters gave the Democrats the House of Representatives, they gave the Democrats the tie-breaking vote. Kamala Harris had the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. They could have pushed all this stuff through, but we had all those people that betrayed us. And so I do get frustrated with people sometimes, but I think it's important not to blame the voters for this. Because again, the voters have given power to decent people only to be betrayed by those people because, they claimed and they pressured and they cajoled us to support them. And then when they got in that position where they could do something for us, they refused to do so. And so we have to go into the primaries with our eyes open. Don't listen again, just the tidal wave of pressure that you get where people convince you to vote against your own integrity. That nonsense about the lesser of two evils. Hi, Elizabeth. When that nonsense about how the lesser of two evils, that's still evil. In the primaries, vote with integrity. Vote for the one you want. And then, in the general election, we have to vote there too. But if we got, historically, not too many people go into the primaries. And we got to pressure our Democrats because the Democrats are so entitled. The established ones, the ones that have been there for decades upon decades and who have done nothing for decades upon decades other than enrich themselves. And it's like this is another way to reach over to the Republicans that are on the fence because Democrats don't pass a purity test. They use their insider training, the knowledge they get from the legislation they pass to enrich themselves. We should be denouncing that. But if we do denounce that, the establishment Democrats again say that we're part of the problem. Even though, that when establishment Democrats, they're so horrible, they're willing to sacrifice the LGBTQ plus community. That's unacceptable. We can't allow that. And any Democrat that tries to suggest that, don't go too far woke because then we can't win. They need to be primaried and they need to hear pressure. They need to hear it from us. But I want to give all of you permission to open up that part of your mind and just to demand these things. Because it's like I said before, the right conditions their base to only see a white supremacy narrative. And the reality of that is, even when they witness an execution, they only watch it looking for an excuse to claim it was okay. And I've sat in a room, I've tried to do this with extreme right-wing people and watched various shootings, a lot of police shootings. And they just sit there. You can see their eyes glaze over. They just wait. And if they don't find the evidence, they watch it again. Okay, this. And then they fabricate that evidence. And we on the left do it too. We're pushed to that, to disregard what we see with our own eyes. We do not have autonomy in this country. We're not taught it. Remember how we're sitting there in classes, and you're told to obey the central authority figure, our whole educational system. And I want everybody to know the extent to which white supremacy, if you have kids in school right now, they are being indoctrinated with white supremacy. And to combat that, you have to teach them critical thinking. You have to teach that to your kids. You have to teach them real history. And you have to have conversations with them. So when they come home from school questioning something, because kids are smart, and this is the other thing that gives me hope, because in my days as a teacher, I always knew. When I stood in front of the classroom and I started telling the truth, as I was often pressured not to do, you don't even have to say a word. Your demeanor changes. You stand in front of the room, I'm about to tell the truth. The kids instantly turn and listen to you. Because kids know when they're being told bullshit. They know that. When you tell those kids the truth, you tell systems are unfair, you talk to them about injustice, you talk to them about the evil history of this country. When you tell them those things, they listen. And they know it's true because it all makes sense and it all adds up. Because our kids, our children, they are brilliant. They are brilliant. And the reason they get frustrated and they fight back and they push is because they feel they're powerless to combat this narrative of lies, this tidal wave of lies. And it doesn't take the whole country, friends. That's the other thing I always try to tell people. It doesn't take the whole country. This group, almost 600 people here. Wonderful. Thank you. This group, 600 people. We'll continue to learn. I hope you're all subscribers to me. You can be free subscribers. You know, all my stuff is free. We do these lives. We talk about these things daily. There's this process. How do we fix this? And again, prior to the election, I mean, I was all in on getting Kamala elected. I was still listening to the left wing bullshit, you know, all their lies where they try to push these shitty candidates so they may because they claim it's safer and all that nonsense. I was hook, line, and sinker into that, trying to just get Kamala in. But the second she was defeated, you know, in quotation marks, even though nobody among the Democrats stood up to demand recounts, even though the Republicans get to demand recounts every single election, but our side, we're not even allowed to even suggest that, even for the sake of preserving election integrity. And they've refused to push through the Voting Rights Restoration Act that would have helped it. And the establishment Democrats are content to blame voters, even though they don't go through and protect the votes that Republicans throw away. I interviewed Greg Palast about this. Voters come in and the Republicans just toss vote. They'll put a mark on it, say it's smudged. They'll toss it out. They'll say, okay, you have to come in a week to verify it. And if people don't, they just erode all the votes that way. There was that issue in North Carolina where they were trying to erode the votes. They were trying to throw out 60,000 votes, and it went to the Supreme Court and it eventually got thrown out. But the extent they will go to steal elections is beyond belief. And the lack of response from the Democrats is equally damning. It is equally damning. We need to pressure them. We need to change this movement. And so I was in it, hook, line, and sinker, but I read Kamala's book, and she is very discerning. She evaluates her own. Yeah, I don't gatekeep poor people. I mean, everybody is poor, and I bring them on. We need to have those stories. That's another thing we don't get from these establishment Democrats who refuse to talk to anybody. They don't want to hear those narratives. And I think a lot of Americans would change their ways if they saw the true suffering that's out there. But I wanted to say I read Kamala's book, and there are factions within the Democratic Party that are blatantly racist. They didn't want to have a woman who had been a prosecutor who had gone after child sex offenders. They didn't want that among the Democrats. You look at guys like James Carville, who, go look it up. He told Obama to go take a toke on a crack pipe, and they're still paying him through Super PAC. I'm sorry, Gloria. I hope I got back to I've been kind of rambling. They pay Carville through a Super PAC to be a consultant, and he erodes the campaign. He's only consulting because he doesn't want Jasmine Crockett to be in the Senate, because I feel, my opinion is, he's a racist. And having guys like Carville, who are still respected members of the Democrats, pushes away votes that would otherwise come to us. And these are the things we have to change. You know, they've managed to keep it. I mean, there's a reason we have so many people that don't vote at all. And it's because they find the Democrats just as contemptible as the Republicans. And, you know, maybe a year ago, I would have argued with them about that. But over the last few elections, seeing what's happened, did I just cut off? Are people still there? I'm not seeing any hearts. I was seeing those hearts out of the corner of my eye. Everybody left me all at once. But after seeing the events of the last elections, you know, we have to change. We have to make radical change. We can't listen to those establishment. And the other part of all this is you know, when I was 20, I would listen to older people. You know, I would assume I didn't have the experience in life. When I was 30, I did the same. When I was 40, I did the same. I'm sitting before you 50 years old. You know, I've been married for 17 years. I have 2 children. I have done a lot of things in my life. I think I get the opportunity now to have my opinion. I can state my opinion and have it be respected. And you guys, you're showing me a lot of respect just by being here and giving me my time or listening to me. And the Democrats are doing it wrong. You know, that's what's happening. We have to make sure that's known. And we have to start making our representatives say, maybe if you just all called up, or if any of you have the opportunity to see one of your representatives face to face, Say, look, you have to start referring to that. ICE has executed. They're executing innocent people. ICE is executing innocent people. They're a domestic terrorist organization. They're covering their face with masks. Another thing we have to say, thank you for the hearts. Thank you, they're back. Another thing we have to say is that we have to talk about the Nuremberg defense. Following orders is not a defense. We need to mention that daily. You have to mention that to the people around you. When you watch the news like today and they execute somebody in cold blood in the street, needless, an innocent man, when they executed Renee Nicole Good and then sat and denied her medical care for 8 minutes while she was alive, another execution. When the man who shot her called her a fucking bitch because he had such a contempt for human life. Talk to, if you know people in law enforcement, say, do you think it's acceptable to kill somebody in the line of duty? I mean, and then call that person a fucking bitch? Or do you think you should have some reverence for human life, a life that you've taken? And we have to make it known. Talk about the Nuremberg defense. We have to warn them that when the tide turns, because we will reclaim our country, we will, because there's no other option. It's either reclaim this country or the country dies because they're killing it, because we have lunatics in charge of the controls. So we will reclaim our country. And we have software that can identify people even though they're wearing masks. They have a mask on and they will be held accountable. And if you're murdering people, if you're executing people, you'll be found, because these people, they think they're above the law. They think they're so powerful, but what are they going to do? Stay awake 24 hours a day? They have to go live somewhere. They have to go try to have families. They have to go try to have houses. So we do have power, but our power is in the long term. I was talking with your weirdo friend, and they talked about how the white supremacists live in this internal present. They never consider the future. And again, it's that delusion, that white supremacy delusion, where they've conditioned themselves to not see reality. All they see is their white supremacy narrative because it makes them feel good. So that's why a person like this reprehensible president would insist that he won an election that he clearly lost, because he's so conditioned himself to only see the white supremacy narrative that he can't even recognize the reality that he's a reprehensible loser, the weakest person in the world. And I think in a dark time like this, hi, Nick, do you want to come on for a minute, Nick? Let me know. I think in a moment like this, it's so important to recognize that. Nick, if you want to come on, let me know. The most important thing to recognize in a moment like this is that they are weak because they can't see reality. They don't interact with reality. They have conditioned themselves only to believe their own, whatever evidence that serves their own ego, and they disregard all other evidence. And that makes them incapable of growing. That makes them incapable of achieving any kind of ability. They can't build anything. They have to steal everything. And that's why we end up with this world where we have all these just corrupt billionaires who are the most loathsome human beings that have ever lived. And they've managed to accumulate fortunes through theft and abuse. And we have to overcome that conditioning that we've been indoctrinated with, to think that we have to admire billionaires. It's all white supremacy indoctrination. We all have to rise together. We all have to help each other. We have to think about community, help each other. Yes, they believe their white supremacy narrative. They disregard evidence. And that is what makes them weak. And that is what means they are doomed to fail. And they will fail. I promise you they'll fail. And that is why we can't allow them to entice us into these traps that they're trying to set for us. We can't allow them to provoke us. We can't allow them to make us feel frustrated. It's hard, especially in a day like today when you watch a completely innocent person be executed by the Gestapo force. They're marching into homes, they're abusing little kids, they're hitting people with nerve agents, and then the administration comes on TV and lies about it, and they assume we're not going to watch it. So those of you out there keep showing up, keep getting those videos because we know the truth and you can't bury the truth. And a day of accountability is coming. A day of accountability is inevitable because you can't go through your whole life, um, having conditioned yourself to disregard reality, thinking you are, the word they use, superior. Remember, white supremacy is an ideology of genocide. It is all on them. We have to fight back against it. Yeah, well, we gotta put pressure on our representatives. We gotta get together. And most importantly of all, we have to unlock in our own mind that resistance. I keep calling it activating, yeah, regime. You're right. It's regime, not administration. This white supremacy regime. I was talking with William Spivey the other day. He concluded that a lot of what's going on right now is that the white population recognizes in the United States that they are 10 or 15 years away from being a minority. So he felt that they are trying to establish apartheid in the United States of America. And we're not going to let it happen because it's going to fail. These systems of abuse are not acceptable. And I want to leave, I'm going to start winding up here, but I want to leave you all with hopefulness because we've endured this all our lives. I'm 50 now. I've endured it my whole life. It's this constant struggle. Our life doesn't have to be like that. You know, we don't have to have $1 trillion be spent on the military, the most expensive military in the world. The police force would be the third most expensive military in the world. And now ICE is on that list somewhere too. The trillions, it's over $1 trillion we spend on violence. What if we spend nothing on that? What if we spent all that money ensuring that everybody's needs were met, educating people? Brilliant people can't afford to go to school right now. How many brilliant minds have been wasted because they weren't given the advantage of an education? How many advancements and inventions might we have had if we didn't waste $1.5 trillion on violence? What if we stopped having for-profit prison? When they made slavery illegal, they left an exception where they can enslave people who have been convicted of crimes. So slavery is alive in the United States. It's alive and it has to be stopped. Because if we closed every single prison and opened up a school, if we made sure everybody had health care, education, a roof over their head, what would be the reason for any strife at that point? And it's like a year ago, there would not have been all these people listening to me say these things. A year ago, nobody would have sat here listening to this. We're just getting started with this now, and it's going to be a long battle. And it doesn't end in the primaries, and it doesn't end in the midterms, and it doesn't end in the next presidential election, and it doesn't end if we manage to impeach. And I keep saying, the midterms, we could put Kamala Harris as the Speaker of the House. We could impeach this regime for treason, and we have President Kamala Harris, in January of that year. That's a dream. You don't have to be elected to Congress to be named Speaker of the House. So we could do that. These things are possible for us. But the main thing, and a really important thing I keep saying, is it's not enough to just dismiss the extremists on the right. Those guys in the center are not our allies. People like Fetterman, people like Kinzinger, people like Schumer. We already know Cohen is not because he claimed he switched. The anti-regime guys who want to go back to the status quo defenders, they will spend the rest of their lives preventing all those things that I aspire to, that we should be able to have, spending the $1 trillion military budget on our kids. Let's spend it on ensuring our kids have a good life rather than murdering people. The centrists are not our friends, and we have to stop listening to their pressure to stop asking for more. Activate your own senses, understand what's true, take a walk with your own sense of integrity, and now's the time. Don't be afraid. Demand the things that this country, the richest country in human history, should be able to provide to its people. And we shouldn't be. We shouldn't act like we're in the best country in the world, because we are not. This is a racist country. This is a country that has a death squad that is executing innocent people. And nobody's coming to save us, but the people here are the hope. All you have to do is pass this on. If every one of you activates somebody today, it doesn't take too many times doubling to cover the entire population of the country. And if we're standing arm in arm, armed with flowers, not with guns, we won't fall into their trap. Keep videoing, keep documenting what's happening, keep reminding the ICE Gestapo who are executing people that there will be days of accountability. They will not be protected. Their guy doesn't look too healthy. He's not going to protect them, and he doesn't protect anybody. He lets people be sacrificed. So let them know that this is not a sustainable path. And keep saying the words. Gavin Newsom, as far as I'm concerned, just completely, when he said he wouldn't do a billionaire tax, he undid all the goodwill he developed over the last year. He's got to know that. When he brings Steve Bannon onto his podcast and not a person like me to talk to him, gone. We don't need to normalize right-wing genocidal maniacs. We don't need to listen to their viewpoint. Those people that have been indoctrinated with that white supremacy mindset, you got to look at it. They need an intervention. You got to look at it as an addiction. They need to be not listened to. We're not listening to their point of view. They have to be opposed. They have to be made to renounce their viewpoint. They have to be stopped. And we need to all work together to create a society where our children can live and people can prosper. I'll just read a couple questions here and then be done. I think that's all I needed to say, but yeah, call it an execution. And they're coming. And don't be delusional. Don't think that you can sit this out. We all have to act. And I have learned in this last year, we have power. I didn't really believe it. The government gets its power from the consent of the governed, and we can take that consent away. We can revoke that consent. We can demand to be treated with dignity. We can insist, dignity is not something that's not conditional. That has to happen. Human dignity. So let's see. Let me read through some of your questions. Thank you, Neurodivergent. We should talk sometime. Again, I apologize. It's hard to have the right language sometimes. It's easy to be misunderstood. I appreciate your feedback. Oh, good. Nancy got one. Yeah, he's a danger. So good. That's perfect. Celebrate those victories, those small victories. Please celebrate them. And thanks for saying my kids are lucky. I did my best. My kids. I mean, it's all for our kids. And I've got my books. I've been reading my books to my kids to prepare them for this. Get them that, critical thinking. Teach your kids critical thinking. You know what? Here's something you can do. Just go apologize to your kids today. It's hard to do, but like that activates your mind. Find something that you did wrong once long ago and just apologize. You'll feel so much better. And then it'll become a habit and it'll empower us all. We need solidarity. Yep, we need solidarity. And that's, and it's solidarity is being willing to admit mistakes. You'll see me acknowledge mistakes on just about every one of these talks I give. And that makes us stronger. It makes us stronger because we learn. If you deny your mistakes, you cut off growth. And I need to grow because I'm not good enough. I'm not. And we all need to be better. The people need to get them out. Yep, we need to have pressures. Thank you. I appreciate the statements that I'm a good dad. I try. I hope they, I want to be better at that too. And I want also, it breaks my heart how many kids in this country don't have good dads. They don't. And we need to make that a thing because kids deserve to be treated with decency. Why don't we have that? We don't have it. United Around Epstein. How many executions on the street will it take before the good people are awake? That's the question. But you know what? We can dramatically reduce the number of executions by talking, by coming together in moments like this, and making people see the truth, because we're all conditioned to think we can't talk about it. They tell it, They tell it after every school shooting. We're not allowed to talk about it. Overcome that. We have to overcome that. We have to talk. Make people uncomfortable, because being a little uncomfortable is better than being a statistic. It's better than being executed by the fucking Gestapo that's coming. And don't let people get away with, make them say it. Make them say the words. They executed that man, they executed that woman. They've executed many, many immigrants we haven't even heard the names of. They have prison camps for children who are being abused. And remember, ICE is a child abduction agency working for a pedophile president. And that should be pretty chilling to think about, too. So this has to be fixed. Yeah. Yeah, we don't know anything, but we're learning, and we're going to continue to be this process, and we're going to be sincere. And I'm taking the time to read your comments and respond to them like you're not going to see the centrists do, because they dictate to you, and it's my job to listen to you and spread these other words. And like Will was saying before, I need people from other platforms, from all walks of life. We talk about it, and over this year, I've gotten to know that. I've learned things so much. Yeah, I'll jump on with we've Neuro and I have tried a couple times. It'll happen. We'll get it done. Yeah, the people they've unaccounted for. And remember with this Epstein thing, they never stopped that. You know, they didn't arrest any of the men. At some point, you have to wonder if Epstein was the guy in charge or was he just the manager? And it was owned by perhaps the guy causing all this evil to go on. Yeah, let's be the empathetic country for a change. Wealth. I mean, it's just you see these miserable rich people that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about them. And it's just get over that. It's not going to save you. That's the other thing. That money isn't going to save you. We need a system. The Second Amendment isn't going to save you. We need decency. We need to vote for decency. We're going to stay in this fight till the end. And, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that we're doing our best. I mean, we don't want them to do anything with Greenland. I mean, that's just so offensive. And I don't want I mean, I was sick to my stomach when they made the illegal attack on Venezuela and they murdered all those people in Venezuela too. This government is executing people. This government is executing innocent people, and they're going to come after every one of you here. And until we make it stop. And everybody has to be aware of that. We have to make sure that's taught in schools. We need to tell it at church. If you have any groups of people that can be activated, the time is now to activate them. It has never been more dangerous than right now. I've seen a few things. I'm 50. I've never seen it worse than this. My friend Bob Dana is older than me. He said he's never seen anything like this either. We have a complete white supremacy dictatorial regime in charge of this country that wants to execute us. It's executing people. They're funding a Gestapo that's going around executing people in broad daylight. Thank you. Keith Porter, Renee Good, Alex Preti. And there's more. I mean, it's a long list. They've got all those fishermen that they've executed, all the people in Venezuela that they executed. At what point, I mean, take a moment and just consider the loss of life. Watch the videos of little kids being grabbed by ICE and tortured. There's plenty of those. And just, look into your heart. Make you shed some tears over it. Those children deserve to have tears shed over them. Because, this has happened, and this is happening in our time, and we're alive now, and we have the power to become united. And COVID, all the responsible deaths from COVID. And that's what happens when you are a person who is so blinded by a white supremacy narrative that you refuse to see evidence. It guarantees you're going to just cause terrible atrocities. You're going to hurt people. People are going to die needlessly. And then they're going to turn around and say you're terrorists. So think of this too. Because, I mean, they'll come after me one day. There may be a day when I'm not here. I hope I get to survive this. I hope all of you get to survive this. But maybe I won't be here. So think of that. When they're talking about my execution in the news, and then they're talking about how I'm a terrorist, and they're playing clips that they've cherry picked from my videos to prove their lie. And then my kids, I hope they will survive, and they'll have to go through the rest of their life listening to the propaganda from this white supremacy regime painting me as a villain. And what kind of effect is that going to have on them? You know, that's the reality of our times. And, the delusion isn't going to save us. Activate people. Activate people. I wish I was. I wish I could stay young. I hate it too, Natasha, but this is the reality. So, love, hate's got nothing to do with it. Let's choose love. Let's go through. Hey, thank you, Natasha. And hopefully, the sooner we all activate, the sooner, and it's the white population. Once the white population is people of means, because the poor people have already felt it. And I'm in the group where they're like, consider cutting this, cutting this, cutting this. And I'm like, yeah, like 15 years ago, I cut all those things you're talking about. And the people that start squawking are those people in gated communities who have it easy, who think this will never touch them. And one way or another, if you got to make them know that it's going to touch them. And, if they're going door to door, claiming that they have a right to enter without any kind of warrant, without any kind of legal authority, everybody is at risk of being killed. And they're, these people, these white supremacists that they're recruiting to be members of ICE, they're not, I've known these people, they're not that bright. They're not very good at reading maps. So even if they have something that they've been told to check out, they'll probably go to the wrong house. I've seen videos of that, of the police doing that, and that's trained police. The people we're dealing with ICE, because I know them. There's people in my family that are like this. These are they're just not capable, and they refuse to ever recognize a mistake. So they'll go and just try to cover things up. They'll continue to hurt people. They'll continue to cover it up. It's not going to end. It's not going to end by itself. They have no shame because they don't recognize the pain they inflict on others. And they've spent all their life. They are not the best and the brightest. These are kids that did not, want to learn anything at school because they have that. They've been committed to that white supremacy ideology, so they think they should be handed everything without having to work for it. So they never bothered to learn. I used to get a beat up just for reading until I got big enough where I gave myself permission to fight back. But I wanted to better myself. And people will physically attack you in some of these small areas if you're just a person who wants to better yourself. And that's another thing we have to recognize going forward beyond the midterms and beyond the next election is we have to reclaim these rural areas that are these cultivation centers for these white supremacy groups. We have to recognize the extent to which these white supremacy groups are alive and well-funded. There are places in the South that celebrate, until this day, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. It is deeply rooted in our culture, and it's a deeply terrible thing. Mouthy, do you want to come on for a little bit? I see that you're on there. If you want to talk for a little bit, I'd be happy to talk to you. Just let me know. Yeah, and again, guys, it can't end just when the regime is toppled and the execution squads are stopped. It doesn't stop there. We have to keep going until America has found its soul, and we have become committed. Okay. He says he's in the bathtub. Okay, so that's what I needed to hear. Thank you. But you're getting a little serious, but then you don't say that. But yeah, again, let me go back to what I was saying. Let's find it. We've always known. Every single one of you here, you've always known there's been something wrong. It's lingered beneath the surface of our cultural awareness. I mean, a movie like The Matrix, where they say in The Matrix, haven't you always known there's something wrong with your culture? You can't put your finger on it. Let's tapping into this, what we know. Whenever I write an article about narcissists, everybody knows they've dealt with narcissists because our entire country is narcissistic. It's really hard. It's really hard to give yourself permission to recognize that you've been abused. I've had a hard time doing it because, you've been abused by people you love. And we can still love our country and recognize that our country is abusing us. You can give yourself permission to do that. and you can set boundaries, and you can demand to be treated better. And we're on that path. And once you start recognize that you've been abused and that the country needs to change, you become empowered to be the agent of that change. And that's what I mean when I say activate yourself. Because it's so frustrating to look around and still so many people are driving to work and they're going to school and they're going to get groceries and they think this will all just blow over. But we have a death squad, an emboldened death squad that's executing innocent people. And a white supremacy regime is enabling it and is covering up for them. And they're only going to become more emboldened. And we don't have an opposition party even now. We need an opposition party. We need prominent politicians or people who are running for office who are willing to call this what it is. And if you know any of those people, have them reach out to me. I'll platform them. I'll talk to them. We'll use this community that I've built to get them elected. But we need people that will listen to our viewpoints, not people that will lecture us and tell us how we don't know anything. Because the ones that lecture us are just part of that same mechanism that make us overlook what our eyes tell us and what our ears tell us and what we know to be true. And we have to stop allowing that to happen. We have to stop allowing ourselves to be conditioned to relinquish our power because we have a lot of power. And the power comes through peace and nonviolence and unity and, empathy and love. That's what we stand for. Oh, yeah. Mouthy. All right. I think I covered it. Yeah. I'll do this again. And next time it happens, we'll keep talking about it, but keep coming back. I got a big schedule of talks. Thank you, Mouthy. Love you too, man. I love all you guys that were here. I love you all. And we're going to get through it. And don't be frustrated. Do the work. We can do work now. We can give ourselves permission to demand better. Please do it. Do what you can to bring more people onto the platform. We need to get bigger. We need to spread the message farther because the other side is spending a lot of money and energy indoctrinating people to be hateful. And we have to offer a counter message to be kind because that's what is the right thing to do. And I still have faith in human beings. And I still think that when people recognize what's going on, they won't let it go on any longer. So let's hope that this last execution was the last execution. And let's all do whatever we can to make sure that happens. So I'll post the replay right away. Thank you, everybody. Love you all. I'm going to leave it. Stay safe. Be well. Do what you can. Give yourself a break. Get some mental health. Hug your loved ones close. Have the hard conversations. It's not going to go away on its own, but with unity, we can reclaim our country. We can, and we're not going to stop. So stay strong, keep resisting. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Talk to you soon.